Campbell's redid their factory, we bought one of their giant vats, chopped the top off, put a still head on top. Going from a 6-gallon water heater to a 20-gallon water heater to a 450-gallon Campbell's soup maker is a huge jump. It's our way, and we made everything ourselves. Nothing will ever taste like this.
Welcome again to another Culinary 360 podcast. I'm Chef Robert.
I'm Chef Ryan.
And I'm Chef Luke. On today's episode, we're going to be talking with Ryan Morgan of Branch and Barrel Distillery here in Denver, Colorado. It's going to be a fascinating trip for all of us, learning about how they kind of came about, humble beginnings of a home water heater distiller. We're going to learn a lot about the process and really their unique process of how they've created their whiskey and other products that they're continuing to just basically innovate into. And then even the equipment that they use to this day, how they've been able to take and, basically Frankenstein some pieces of equipment together to make a unique product, a unique process, but something that's very true to them. So without further ado, let's hear directly from Ryan in our conversation today.
Ryan.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
I just got to say, ever since I heard about you and Branch and Barrel Distillery, the whole story behind it, I've been fascinated by it. And, today I'm really looking forward to delving into that a little bit deeper. So thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be fun.
Thanks, Ryan.
I love to start with, our guests being able to tell their story a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, how, the idea for the distillery kind of came about, and maybe, some of the trials and tribulations along the way, and then kind of where you are now and so forth.
Legitimate pleasure. And it's honestly an honor to be asked to be on the show. So
He said it was an honor, guys.
I know.
Oh, this bottle wasn't empty when I sat down. I'll say that.
Oh, okay. Good. Ooh, I was going to say honor. Okay.
Oh my gosh, where do I even start? So I know a lot of who I am kind of goes back to my grandfather. My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. He was the only survivor from his whole village.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
We could speak for hours on his story.
Yeah.
But he ended up making it over to the United States, and by himself, knew no one, didn't know the language. And really, he was an entrepreneur, and he just started small businesses and figured it out. And he eventually got into the construction business in 1959. And so, my father grew up going to job sites every day with his father. And so that's kind of how I was treated. Every day, get up, on the weekends, get ready, go to the job site, sweep drywall, dust, stack lumber, just participate, be hands-on. And from an early age, I really learned what craftsmanship was. And, not only is it important to have, be able to do things with your hands, be able to have that vision, but do it as a team.
Yeah.
Because just like, construction projects, you can't just have one person. I mean, you could try, but when you get people together, like, you can really create something beautiful.
Like a kitchen.
Absolutely.
And so the story goes in 2012, I moved to Boulder, Colorado. And the guy I worked for, who has, been sober for decades, thought it'd be a really fun idea to start a distillery. I owned a tea company at the time. So I imported high-end whole leaf tea from Taiwan and China.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
When I went to college, I read The Dharma Bums by Jack Kerouac, but he drank a lot of tea. And so I really got into it, and I found this whole kind of microcosm of high-end tea. So I was flying to Taiwan and China annually to buy tea from farmers, to sell it at a retail store, sell it online.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that's super cool.
And it was kind of a logistical nightmare, but it was really fun. Yeah, we can tease a whole different conversation.
That's really cool.
So this guy knew I owned a tea company. For some reason, his name's Tom Seeloff. Tom's like, "Oh, you own a tea company? There's some mingling. We could start a distillery." And I was like, don't know how these relate at all, but logistics or something. I'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, they're so common.
Tea, distillery. Yeah, it sounds perfect.
It's funny. This is like the early days of Amazon. So we bought books on like how to make whiskey, really, and just read it cover to cover. We're like, okay, there's kind of two concepts here. One is like how you make alcohol, and the other is actually distilling the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So, we kind of came up with a formula of an idea of how we wanted to make it.
Do either of you have a science background?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
But introduced my partner Scott. So Scott is a third generation plumber. He was a master plumber at the age of 18.
Wow.
And if y'all know like the steps of like journeyman, master, all this stuff, I mean, you're usually in your late 20s or late 30s at least before you become a master, if you ever do.
Yeah.
And he literally got the year that he became eligible for it. The man is brilliant.
Wow.
He was working on that project as well. And he, we came and said, hey, if we want to kind of create a still, here's a 6-gallon like water heater concept. Can you do this? And he's like, yeah, give me a week. So he goes back to his shop, finds a little water heater, takes some copper pipe. He sits back and welds it together. And then like a week later, this little still shows up at the office. We're like, holy shit, like that was really fast. Okay, let's figure out how to make this. We went to the local grain store, bought corn and barley. We went to Bass Pro Shop and bought turkey fryers to make our mashing. And we sat in Tom's backyard. I don't know why we started in January. Cooking this grain, not knowing what we're doing. Like we're reading from a book. It says, cook it till it's cooked. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And I'll be honest. I mean, the first 4 months of us trying to make alcohol were profitless. We made zero alcohol. And it wasn't until we understood about pH and like we started learning about the science of it. Like, okay, what makes yeast happy? What makes them sad? What makes us happy and sad? Had to do a lot of soul searching.
Yeah.
But, it finally kind of came together. And like, wow, okay, we're making alcohol. And the story goes from the name. So we had all these mason jars kind of lined up. And the idea is to understand your heads, hearts, tails, and your cutoffs. And we can get into the distilling practices later. But, the hearts is the stuff you really want to drink. That's the good stuff. So we lined up all our mason jars and we're sampling like, oh, here's the hearts. This is the good stuff we want to drink. But we're like, oh, shit, we're bootlegging. We want to make whiskey, but we have no barrels. We have no wood. We got too concerned with like making the alcohol. We forgot like the whole whiskey part. So, I grew up in San Diego drinking tequila. So I drank tequila. I didn't drink whiskey. I didn't really understand whiskey that much at all. I just thought it'd be fun to make alcohol. So like, turned around in his backyard, he had all these different types of trees, chokecherry, aspen, plum, apple, hickory. Like, oh shit, whiskey's made with wood. So we just went to those trees, chopped off branches, took those branches, put them into little cuttings, threw those cuttings in the mason jars.
Did you char the wood?
Some we did, some we didn't.
Okay.
We really had like an array of experiments.
Yeah.
But the name branch and barrel comes from the original barrels were the branches from our trees.
Yeah.
So we took all these mason jars filled with like some wood, some charred, some whatever, put it on a shelf, came back 6 months later and decided to drink them all. And 95% of them were horrible.
Yeah.
But the 5% that were good were really freaking good. And I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. Right? We'll throw away that stuff. But this tastes kind of interesting. So I had a roommate at the time who he liked to imbibe. And so I didn't know if it would make me go blind. Right. We made this stuff in the backyard. Right. It was a felony. It was not legal. What the hell do I do? I was like, if it won't kill Sean, it won't kill anyone else.
There you go.
So I brought it home, left it on the kitchen counter. Sean came back. He drank some. I woke up in the next morning. He got up, went to work. I went. Like half the jar was gone. It's like, wow, he's still alive. We're good. We can go. Like,
yeah.
I started taking these jars to parties. Right? You can walk up to the alcohol table at a party and you're like, why is there a mason jar with wood chips in it? This is kind of weird, but people were drinking it and people were really liking it.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, this is kind of interesting. At the time, Stranahan's had just had their big exit. We knew nothing about the industry, but we were just these guys that wanted to make a really good product. We're like, okay, we understand how to manufacture it. Let's do it on an industrial level, and let's make sure that we keep our morals about us. We want it to be all from Colorado. We want all of our grains to go feed Scott's animals. We want to butcher their meat, sell it out of tasting room. We want all of our equipment to be repurposed, recycled, reused. And we really want it to be like bias for everyone that likes to drink this product and doesn't have to be priced at a $90 bottle, right? So when we came out, we really wanted it to be around $60. So we wanted it to be approachable,
right?
And the idea was just like to make something to share. So our facility, we got in 2015, and it was the same time like pot had just become legal. So we were fighting for the same locations because pot growing or cannabis growing and alcohol distilling have like certain radius restrictions. Like we can't be next to schools, things like that. Because we create a flammable vapor. Like it can be a very dangerous process. And so we happened to stumble upon a landlord in the middle of Centennial that hated making a lot of money. Every pot grower would say, "Hey, here's 10x rent, and whatever, we'll pay you in cash every week." And the landlord's like, "Of course." This guy's like, "Oh, none of that
Yeah.
like green nastiness. No, you guys want to make alcohol? Cool. I don't care." I mean, we got shut out of a lot of places, but we started this facility, and Scott went in there, and we took the flooring out, we put in all the drains, and we we raised the ceiling a little bit. And again, this is like a side project. This is like we were still also working construction, and doing our day jobs, and we're like, oh shit, we had this facility, now we got our license. Now someone needs to make this stuff. So we had like a friend of a friend who's like, "Oh, I'm a retired Navy pilot. I love tinkering. Let me come in and help you out." I'm like, "Awesome." So I got him business cards. I'm like, "Yeah, I finally got a distiller." His first day on the job, he goes in the back to mill the grains, has a horrible allergic reaction, like shuts off, like can't breathe, like
Oh.
has to get dragged out of the building.
Oh my God.
Wow.
We lost our distiller day one. We're like, "Oh, fuck, what do we
Day
do?"
one.
Wow.
Day one.
Shit.
So
That's crazy.
while we're working on all our systems, we have this guy. His name's Rick Warren, who's an electrician, and he's helping us program all of our electrical needs. And he turns around and says, "Hey, I just watched your distiller run out the building because he couldn't breathe. I'm trying to get out of the electrical game. I'd love to be your distiller." And we're like, "Well, okay, well, what do you know about distilling? Tell us something." He goes, "I know absolutely nothing." And I said, "Okay, that's perfect. Neither do we. So we're going to learn together." And that's kind of where it started.
Jesus.
And Rick is like, he dove in with both feet. And I love this man. I cannot thank him enough for everything he does. But, he spent years perfecting our recipe, because we had an idea, right? Going from a 6-gallon water heater to a 20-gallon water heater to a
Right.
450-gallon Campbell soup maker is a huge jump and
Yeah.
a huge difference. And so, yeah, our first still is actually an old Campbell soup maker. Campbell's redid their factory. We bought one of their giant vats, chopped the top off, put a still head on top.
Uh-huh.
Again, repurpose, recycle, reuse. We're trying to figure it out, and we want to do it our way. And I think what's interesting is because it's our way, and we made everything ourselves. Nothing will ever taste like us. So Rick started and was having a good time, and we started rolling. And he brought in his son, and then he brought in his best friend, and then we just started really growing. In 2017 or 18, I think we put out our first product in the market, which was batch 1. And it's funny, on the back of the bottles, we actually used to have Rick sign every bottle
Every one of them.
That's awesome.
for the first batch.
Oh, that's cool.
But almost 10 years later, our team is 15, 16 people. We just hired 3 people last month. We are blowing and going. We lay down 10 barrels a week at least. And we produce, and like so much of
Wow.
what we do is in the back of house. I was telling Luke yesterday at our tasting room, I was sitting there working, and people kept knocking on the door and trying to come in. I'm like, "What do you guys want?" They're like, "We're here to see the tasting room." I'm like, "Oh shit, I didn't even think about this. We're so focused on
Yeah.
making a good product, I forgot about the whole like customer interaction." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah. people might actually want to come in and try it, right?
So yeah, we had to tear
Yeah.
down the front of our building and outfit it for a whole tasting room bar, and it's pretty amazing. Like we've hired a distillery director and an incredible cocktail program, and we have a following. And like Friday and Saturday nights, it's like standing room only. It's pretty insane. We're in the middle of an office park in nowhere.
Yeah, I can attest. When I was going down there, I drove right past it because it's like, if you don't necessarily know exactly where you're going, it's, I hate to say it, but sort of like our office. Like if you don't know exactly where you're going and already know or have already been there, like it's easy to miss, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but a testament to you guys, Ryan. People are drawn to you guys and drawn to your products, and I can see why.
We love
super
it.
good.
And honestly, it's kind of amazing 10 years later. And I don't know any other distillery like us. My partner and I still own 100% of the business, right? We have no outside investors, no debt, no anything breathing down our neck. And it has allowed us our ability to just still focus on our quality. We have over 2,000 barrels aging. And, I think
Wow.
every year it just gets better. Someone's like, "Oh, I have batch 20.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, "That's great, but the newest batch is even better. Like, drink that shit. Get it out of your bottle." It's really exciting. The industry is in a big shift right now. sales are down across the country. Drinking trends have changed. Consumption changed. The laws of where you can even buy it have changed.
Yeah, that's true.
Liquor stores are going out of business every day. And so the consolidation is real. And the people that have, those big dollars to spend, the reason I brought that up is our marketing budget is word of mouth right now, right? All of my funds that come in go straight to manufacturing. And we really try to work on our reputation for our advertising, because I don't have millions of dollars to spend on ads. That would be great, and that would probably boost our sales, but I need to keep my lights on and I need to keep production going. And so it's a totally different way to approach it, where most companies, it's all marketing, right? They don't make anything, and it's all about putting something in a package and making it look pretty and pushing those sales. Yeah. And we're really trying to grow our core of who we are and gain that level of trust and respect in the industry and with our consumers and our customers, that they always know no matter what we put out, it will be the highest quality it can be for a really good price.
Right.
I think that's so smart too, because like what you're saying, it's the way that everything's going now, people are going to be looking for that type of business of the product's great, they're resourceable, they do everything in house, and more people are going to kind of like farm to table food, right? Like people are more like, okay, I want free range, I want preservative free, I want that type of stuff. It's going to be the same thing with the alcohol. I mean, the liquor stores might be closing, those big brands are going to drop in sales, and I feel like the small guys are going to come up top because it's what people believe in now and what they really want to focus on. So hats off to you for doing that and just kind of keep trucking with the best product you can put out, because probably not easy right now, but it's going to come in the long run, I bet.
Yeah.
I love the little tiny cowboy hat.
It's a little fun little thing. It usually sits on my bottles.
Pretty nice.
How long is your longest aged barrel? Are you going to like put one aside and age it for like 100 years?
It's funny. Colorado is the worst place to age alcohol. Our first 4-year barrel, which was in 2020, we opened it and it was empty.
Oh, no way. Really?
Oh,
Yeah. So, you know how
Wow.
dry it is out here, right? Your skin, everything dries so
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
It's the same with a barrel, right? Evaporation is a real issue. And that's why like Louisville, Kentucky is such a great place to age, because it's so humid and the barrels can like really sit in that. What's interesting there though is the alcohol evaporates before the water. Here, the water evaporates before the alcohol. So, we are very concise with where we age it, how we age it, how much water we put in and around it. Like we have to artificially create humidity, but it's a hard thing to do when you're trying to keep something concise. Plus barrels leak and there's all sorts of issues with like the barometric pressure change that occurs here as well, right? Because we get these big swells of storms that come in and out and really, really changes it, which also like people say Colorado bourbon ages faster because of the conditions. But at the same time, like I would love, our oldest barrel, to answer your question, is about 8 years old.
Okay.
And I really want to get that in a series of them to 10 years. But the barrels, they're half empty by that time from evaporation. And it's kind of scary. I would love to have a 20-year and all these things. I just don't think we physically can.
Don't know if you can
with the way that we age it and the flavor profile that we're trying to go for.
You can send a barrel to me in Seattle. I mean, it's going to come back empty in a week, but we can try it.
We'll just roll it out
there. So what a barrel that's aged, even like a 4-year, like, I mean, what's the change in proof from like when it's, entering, being deposited into the barrel versus when you guys are pulling it out? How much change happens?
It's not crazy. So we go into the barrel between 101 and 104. And depending on the barrel, we'll bring it out between, 105 and 109. I think 110 is the highest I've seen it. But it kind of stays in between the 100, 110 range. And a reason, like so to be a bourbon, you have to be in the barrel, I believe it's between 100 and 120, or 101 and 120. You can only be proofed down to 80, but in the barrel it's between 100 and 120. And we like the large water content because I don't like proofing down my barrels very much. I think so much of that flavor comes from the barrel. Like our White Dog is so good, right? I'll drink the stuff coming off the still at 170 proof because I'm just masochistic and I love to burn myself.
That just hurt my chest.
Oh my! You can't breathe. It's like, yeah. Come by on a high wines day. I love to sample it and just like I'll take out a glass and pour a little for people in the tasting room and just watch their face either melt or light up. And it usually melts. And people are like, oh my God, don't do that. Don't do that to me.
Don't do that.
But my point is you need good juice to go into the barrel to get good juice out of the barrel. And so, our juice is so good. I like to proof it down before it goes in so that the barrel really can add all those caramel vanilla notes, and that woodiness to it, right? So many distilleries have tried these fun experiments of like what's it called, speeding up the aging by doing this and that and putting chemicals through it. But honestly, nothing replaces time. Like it's pretty amazing. You line up, whatever distillery they're aging it from 1 to 10 years, and every year it's going to taste different. Every year it's just going to get more relaxed and feel better. It's like when it's young, it's hot, it's fiery, it's anxious, it's got all this that it wants to give out, and like over time that just calms. And the wood, just like, because wood is porous, right? Do you know oak wood is the only wood you can use for barrels?
Oh,
And it's because the oak tree, I guess the oak plant, the fibers in it are crossed. And so as it expands, it can hold itself. When all other wood, the grains run parallel. So as they expand, they open. And so you have a lot of leakage. So that's why oak barrels are what's used in aging, or the oak family.
interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I feel like we're in an episode of Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, gosh.
Now we're going to make a volcano.
A volcano that shoots out whiskey.
Yeah. Right into my mouth.
That sounds actually lovely.
Go get your plumber, friend. He can do it.
Oh, he can. Yeah, we do a lot of fun. I don't know about if that's what we do at the tasting room, but we try to get weird and funky with it. Like they just passed a law this year that we can do, you can add other alcohols to your products. So before, anything you sold in your tasting room, you had to make if it was alcohol based. But now we can actually use mixers.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Malort,
Okay.
but my team has a disgusting
Yeah, yeah.
familiarity with
Oh,
Malort.
gosh.
And we've made some weird concoctions just to try to get people to drink more Malort. So if it's a volcano, it's a lot less time for you to think about it as it consumes you. And you consume it.
Yeah. Just shoot it right in, right?
Oh, my lord.
Yeah, another fun thing we do at the tasting room that we have actually become known for is our roll for old fashioned. So my team loves
Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons, and so they have all the different die, right,
Nice.
with different faces, and each die corresponds to a different
Yeah.
ingredient. And so when you roll the die, each ingredient you kind of roll your own and let the fates decide what your old fashioned will be. And then they create the drink based off of your chance of rolling.
Oh, that's cool.
That sounds dangerous, too.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So, Ryan, besides the bourbons or the whiskeys, you're doing a gin too, which is new, which you mentioned
Mhm.
earlier when we were chatting before we started this. So you're making the gin in house, and then what are you using as its base?
Corn.
Okay.
Corn and a little bit of sugar, but it's a corn-based gin. So it's actually, the gin is a funny story, right? So most distilleries, if they know what they're doing, right, and they want to make money, they start with clear spirits, gins and vodkas, because it takes 90 days essentially to start it and then get it into a bottle to sell it. Because when we started,
Okay.
we had all of our day jobs. We're like, you know what? Let's focus on making a really good bourbon we can age, and then we'll come back to clear white spirits that we can buy or figure out. So it took us, 8 years before we decided to do a clear spirit. And the first
Okay.
clear spirit we actually did was a rum. So, our initial slogan was friends, family, and freedom. This is something we wanted to make to share with our friends. This is something our family was proud to take or and have. And then the freedom was like the freedom to experiment, the freedom to do weird, crazy shit. If I listed all the weird barrels we had aging right now, it would take a long time because we collect random things and just throw them together. And 50% of the time they work out, 50% of the time they don't work out. But when they do work out, it's really fun. And so one of these experiments was a rum. And our distiller, Ted, came up with this Bosun rum recipe, right? And most distilleries will produce a rum because it's literally the cheapest thing you can ever make. It's water and molasses. Pour it in there. The molasses dissolves in the water. You pitch yeast, you get alcohol, right? That's your rum flavor.
Yeah, sounds pretty simple.
Not for us. Ted decided to make the most expensive drink we could ever make. And we imported vanilla beans from Madagascar. We had a special order, a species of banana from a grocery store, right? I got the shopping list and I'm like, I can't pronounce half of this. You want what? We got this smoked cherry wood. I mean, it's absurd that what he came up with. And he wanted this open fermentation. It's Atocha is, I guess, an island in the Caribbean. And it's like a special style of rum that they produce. That's like an open fermentation. Um, and and so he created this, and it is funky, and it is so fun, and it is delicious. But it's this random one-off thing that we did. That I mean, if you like rum and you like funky Jamaican style rums, it's mind blowing. But again, it's like it was so expensive to
Okay.
make. Like I don't think we could ever really make this again because there's not like a big demand for it. That was a tangent off the gin story. But Ted is, I guess, coming back to is our our master experimenter. He's like, I really think I can do a good gin. Because one thing we don't want to do is half-ass stuff. Like just because gin sells really well, it's not like, oh, we're just going to throw a gin out there, right? We want to like really experiment
Yeah,
and find
sure.
out something that's unique. Because right, you go to the liquor store, how many bourbons do you have to choose from, or vodkas, or gins, or anything?
Oh
So
my God.
many.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's infinite.
So
So it's
much.
like, and the statistic is 93% of people already know what they're going to buy when they walk into a liquor store, right? So if you're trying to get that 7%, you better do something special, right? And that's why so much of our
Yeah.
reputation is based off of everything we put out there. Because if you don't know, you're like, oh, I haven't seen this before, but I trust that brand, or Branch and Barrel puts time and effort into
Mhm.
the R&D.
Uh-huh.
That's something I'm willing to experiment with. So the gin like took us some time, and
Yeah.
we came up with this insane. My distilling team, they're brilliant. Very citrusy Colorado floral gin, and it's unlike any gin you'll taste. Right?
Wow.
It's not that bitterness. It's really it's citrusy, and it's over the top, and it's fantastic. So we literally released that to the market, I think, a couple weeks ago. But that was a really fun experiment.
That's awesome.
What are you infusing into the when you're so do you have a reciprocator? I think that's what it's called, right?
We have
Where it
we have
goes
a
up
gin
and
basket.
down and up and down, and
Yeah,
they
we have
they do that with vodkas, and then okay.
So we have that. We have it's a thumper that we hang the basket through, and we let the vapors pass through that.
Okay.
So you can during certain distilling cycles, you can shut valves off. So as it evaporates, it condenses
Okay.
at the top of the still and then comes back down through the plates
Right.
and up and down. And it really, one, it can get the flavors, but two, it really refines the spirit, right? Because copper is a really important ingredient of the distillation process because it removes impurities from the actual vapor. And so we do that, and then we kind of take the vapors out, then through our basket, and then condense it. But it's 28 different herbs and botanicals, and I literally wish I could list them all.
Wow.
I can't. It is so above my. It's so funny. Like we started this business, and it's I don't know if it's the founder's quandary, but I used to know everything or how to turn everything on. I walk into the back of the house now, I can't even turn the still on.
Jeez.
Right, the equipment is so advanced and so far outside of my pure view. Like I would break something. I'm afraid to touch half the equipment.
Long ways from a couple water heaters, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
long ways. And it's actually great. So Scott, the plumber, the back of house is his baby, right? He could do it with his eyes closed. I mean, it's those guys cut the hearts and tails and the heads based off of what they hear from the machine and the smell in the air.
Wow.
But they've gotten so dialed into like what it should taste like, how it flows, and just the equipment itself that they can just tell. They can hear from another room. It's wild.
That's crazy that they can feel that. Yeah. All the other senses kicking in.
Yeah, there's spidey senses.
So I think it's, I mean, I don't know, we're equipment guys, right? So, well, we're three chefs and, we represent equipment brands. The fact that you guys have basically just like created almost your own equipment, I find that like super fascinating, right? Like you guys, you basically knew what you needed to do and what you needed to accomplish, and you made the equipment do what you needed it to do. Like that I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the equipment yesterday.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Scott.
crazy.
Scott is a genius. I mean, it's so much of it because you see, our first still was a Campbell soup maker, like I mentioned. It had one column. I think it was 4
Right.
inches wide. Very cute, right? We blew a hole in it. We worked on it so much.
Very cute.
Replaced it with Rosalinda. Rosalinda is 750 gallons and has 2 column heads coming out of it. And Scott did a lot of really ingenious things on how to recirculate the alcohol, right? Because there's a few items that you have to take into consideration when you're heating up a giant vat of liquid to a point where it can start to evaporate, right? So
Mhm.
you want it to equally or uniformly heat up at the same time and be able to control the rising, right? So much of it is, like I said, you have to be able to make it, right? Corn, barley, hot water, let it cool down, make the yeast really happy, let them create all the alcohol you need, and then you got to remove that alcohol, right? And the cleanest ways you can do it in the most efficient ways at the same time. Because, we used to have our distiller sleep at the distillery 2 nights a week because it would take him 36 hours to do a run. But with our new stills and with our efficiencies, we're able to do the same thing, but in a third the time.
One of the things that we talked about, which, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is just like a little factoid thing, but the amount of time it took you guys to fill up with water, like into the vat, like to do, all the process, right? You were saying, 45 minutes to an hour or whatever. And then you're getting even bigger tanks, and it's just like, holy fuck, it's taking forever to just the water piece of it, right? Because obviously, water is a big ingredient, right? It's a very important ingredient in this type of a process. And so explain to these guys what you guys then brought on to make it so you guys could fill up faster.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, everything in our factory is repurposed, recycled, or used, right? And so our team got so efficient. The distillers are Dylan, Rick, and Ted. They got so efficient with how much alcohol they were creating, right? Each batch was maybe 6 the metric ABV, right? For a giant 500-gallon vat, there's maybe 5% of that was alcohol, right? And over time, now it's 10. Now they're reaching 12. So they almost doubled the production just by learning the equipment, by learning the times and the temperatures, and just like by focusing in their craft on the same thing, they can just make it so much better, and it's phenomenal to see that. But what happens is that pushes it down the road. So when it came time to fill the barrels, the vat that we had to fill it couldn't hold all the alcohol in it, especially when we proofed it down. And then we got a second side, and it was twice as much. So one of the first pieces of equipment that we got them when we had both sides running was a giant mixing tank, and the mixing tank it's huge. But the only new piece of equipment we ever bought was, when you go to a gas station, you get like that little hose that can go into your car.
Yeah.
We bought a jet fuel one. And so the jet fuel one hangs on the end of a hose, hangs to this tank. And what used to take Rick, again, 45 minutes or an hour to use a garden hose to go into this tank and then into the barrel and then watch it. And it's just, now he just takes the freaking jet fuel hose, puts it in the barrel, sets it on like auto, and it goes in like 3 minutes. It's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
But just like, like when you're putting gas in your car, right? It senses when, it's reached basically the tip of the filler, right?
Oh, so it shuts off automatically.
It shuts off.
So it shuts off, and then he can top it off.
Yeah.
That's great. It's cool.
I thought
that's awesome.
Pretty awesome.
As I mentioned, right, when the barrels get empty, when they start to age, they empty. So we try to fill it as much as we can. So it's actually a beautiful thing. He fills it literally till it's overflowing, puts the top in it, and then he hammers it down, and then whiskey just explodes out the sides as he
just
displaces it
everywhere.
every time. So yeah, it used to take him 20 hours. Now it takes him an hour. It's pretty great.
That's really cool.
Have you ever shot somebody with the jet hose? See what would happen when they fly back?
Probably. No, yeah. Again, the whole flammable vapor thing, something we try not to fuck with.
I'll do it when I come.
Yeah. No, just into your mouth. Yeah. Really impressive. I kind of like this.
I think Ryan's looking for a field trip.
Yeah. I'll test it.
Yeah.
We'll put in one of those wheelie chairs, and as it sprays, you just shoot back across the room.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Done.
Oh man. So that was another thing that I was kind of taken by, when I was able to go and visit the distillery and just kind of see, everything that was there, your dog. So Moose, it's pretty sweet that Moose was around. I'm a fan of a dog, especially, in places like that. I think it's special, and it kind of speaks to Colorado a little bit too. But then even just the decor of the place, right? The place is cool, right? I like all the wood and stuff that you guys have. And then there was a story about all the sliced logs that were on the wall. I think the first wall, when you first walk in, and then the other wall. Talk about that a little bit.
So it's funny. We hired. I'll talk on the dog, and then I'll jump on that. So it's funny. Okay. So the dog is grown up there, right? He's a Colorado. He's a distillery dog. We do volunteer bottlings, and we kind of put it out there, and whoever kind of signs up the quickest gets to come volunteer and bottle with us on a Saturday morning, which is really fun. But so many people are on it. It sells out in 5 minutes. maybe 3 minutes now. It's actually absurd. Like my
Jeez.
first handful of bottlings,
Yeah.
I'd like call friends and beg them and bribe them to come help me. Like put
Right.
these things in bottles. And now we really put it on Eventbrite. And by the time we try to go put it onto Instagram, it's already sold out.
Wow.
But people are so familiar with Moose that they bring him treats and toys when they come do bottlings. It's just like the most heartwarming thing ever.
That's super awesome.
But so the wood, so yeah, we decided like, oh shit, we need a tasting room. Like people have to come here. I hired a designer to like help me lay it out. So I'm like, designers can really do all this stuff for us. And they gave us a plan. We're like, I don't know if we really want to go this route. So my partner Scott, there was one of those aspen log kind of walls. Have you ever seen those like aspen trees that are like cut off and they're all stacked together and it's just really,
it's like a slice
cool.
of each log, right? Yeah, they look super cool. I think it's super neat.
So the designer said, hey, you should put one on this wall and one on the opposite wall. And my partner Scott looked at that and said, fuck that. I can do this better and cheaper. And so he just goes home, pulls out a chainsaw and starts hacking at his trees. And he takes down a persimmon tree and he takes down a red oak tree and he cuts them into these like thin, really like varied sections of trees and then makes his own wall out of different wood. And it is so cool. And that's when you walk in, you kind of like, embrace that.
It is really cool.
So much of what we do, we try to like be rooted, right, in nature and Colorado and everything here, right? It's kind of fun. Like I like just try to do and be everything from the state or around the state, and then give it back, right? Our water comes from the Arapahoe Aquifer. My partner has a well that goes all the way down, and twice a week we fill up a huge ass water tank and it drives its way over and chugs and fills up 8,400 gallons. We have 2 containers that hold 8,400 gallons. And we are constantly filling it up because there's so much water that goes into this. But I don't think you can get any fresher from that.
Where'd the idea come up for Cafe Meal, your coffee flavored
That's a great one.
whiskey?
So that was one of my babies. I love coffee.
Okay.
And I love honey. And this was a COVID project. So I was doing one of our first events in downtown Denver. It was a bazaar event. And at the end of it, this guy came up to me. It was really sweet. He's like, hey, like, can I trade you some honey for some bourbon? And at a lot of these events, if you do trade shows, people trade kind of at the end. And so like, sure. And we're sitting there bullshitting. And he's like, hey man, I'd love to buy a barrel from you. I'm like, what are you going to do with the barrel? He's like, well, we have a apiary up in Berthoud, and we take honey from our farm and we fill barrels and then we rotate them every day for 90 days so they don't crystallize. And then after 90 days, we turn it upside down, empty it out, and then we get bourbon flavored honey. And I'm like, that's really fascinating. Let me think about that. So I went home and I called them back and I said, listen, I'm not going to sell you shit. I'm going to give you barrels. Actually, I'm going to give you 4 barrels and I want you to give them back to me when you're done. And that's all I asked. And he's like, sure. Like they just sit around anyway. So this kind of started our honey blends, right? 'Cause I'm a purist. Like so much of the honey shit you drink out there is just chemicals added and it tastes sweet. Like I wanted everything we do, I want it to be as pure as it could be. So we rolled up 4 barrels to B Squared Apiary in Berthoud, and they filled it with their honey. And same thing, they emptied it out and they gave it us back. So we took 2-year bourbon and we finished it in these honey barrels. And so for the next year or 2 years, all that organic Colorado honey that was sitting in these barrels, that because honey's sticky, that didn't come out when they emptied it, got absorbed into our alcohol. And so that's kind of what started our honey bourbon was that experiment. And then, during COVID, I figured, we can't do samplings. We can't go out and sell. We can't do very like traditional methods because one, you can't like talk to people because you're wearing a smothered mask. And you can't, there's just no sampling. So I was like, the best way to do it is with collaborations. So I had always wanted to do a coffee bourbon. And I figured, hey, let's work with like a really reputable roaster in town. So I contacted Corvus Coffee. I said, hey, would you guys be cool if we did like a collaboration? And they were all for it. So we came to their roastery. We sampled a bunch of our stuff and we're like, okay, what kind of beans do you think would work with this? And we kind of worked for a couple hours going back and forth on the types of beans and this and that. We did a bunch of experiments with a bunch of our different bottles at the time. But the honey, for some reason, the viscosity that the honey creates matched with the flavor of the coffee is just like one of the most enjoyable things, right? So we started with just the bourbon in the coffee and it was okay, but that honey like brings out those notes. And so Corvus started roasting this like special, amazing roast for us. And we would throw those beans in a barrel, let it sit there for 24 hours. That's all it really needed. And then we would bottle it immediately after. And that was kind of like one of our fun
Crazy.
COVID experiments.
That's cool. Yeah. I think one of the first times I went to your website, I remembered, like you type in Branch and Barrel, and then it's like, the Google search, and doesn't take you directly to your webpage. And it was like all these comments. The first comment that I saw was, "Don't ever get rid of the honey coffee whiskey." And like, oh, we got to try this out. I'm glad you brought that up, Robert. That reminds me.
Yeah, I'll
Are
tell
you
you
gonna go
the
buy
truth.
yourself a bottle, Luke, and not send us any?
I will go by myself, and I won't even tell you, Brian.
It's great in a flask, and it's great in literally your coffee or your hot chocolate. That's how I consume it on the weekends.
Nice.
I would say so much of the business too, like with Cafe Miel, is just these random collaborations, which is so fun, right? That if this guy hadn't approached me at this market, we never would have done the honey, right, the way we did, or maybe it would have taken a long time. But then the coffee just kind of came, and it's just there's so many people in this industry that want to experiment and want to share and do fun things together. I mean, right now, so many of our barrels, I think we have 30 plus barrels sitting at different facilities, beer, wine.
Wow.
Some are roasting with coffee in it. Some are doing all sorts of crazy things. And it's really fun to be a part of each other's story.
Speaking of industry, do you reach out to a lot of other whiskey makers or anything like that in Colorado or in different states and get like side notes or anything like that, or build relationships like that?
I try to. It really depends. So there's a Colorado Spirits Guild.
Yeah.
And so a lot of distillers are part of this guild that a lot of it's really just for lobbying. And I'll be honest, every distillery does it so differently.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of the notes that we would compare, I think they're lobbyist, they're laws, they're like, what are the logistics of our business and how do we get better together? Right. Like the to-go beverages during COVID, that was an industry getting together and shoving that down Congress's throat.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these like excise taxes is a lot of really what the collaboration we do together. But every distillery approaches it so differently. But we all trying to win together in the same vein.
Right.
Getting in front of consumers and making that easiest. But it's been so hard, right? Since they allowed wine in grocery stores. I mean, literally a liquor store goes out of business every week because wine is a liquor store's number one margin product, right? That's how most liquor stores make their money.
Mm-hmm.
And now that the convenience, they don't have to go into liquor stores for the wine. They don't have the budget to buy as much alcohol, and their shelves are shrinking. And it's really becoming an issue. Like I feel terrible for a lot of the off-prim, retail stores out there because it's tough out there. And the big ones are just kind of consolidating and getting bigger. And the small ones are just all going out of business.
That is mind blowing. I never thought about that because I buy my wine at the grocery store now too because it's just a one-stop shop.
Right. The convenience of it.
It's 90% people. Right? The same thing happened with beer, and it's only a matter of time before it happens to liquor. And once that happens, right, little guys like me that don't have big representation with the national distributors, Republic, Southern Glazers, Breakthroughs, we're going to be begging for shelf space, and they're going to say no. I mean, it's very interesting. Like trying to get into restaurants is one of the hardest things. And I didn't think it'd be like, oh, we have a local product, it tastes good, right? Everyone was going to want to put us on their shelf. And you go to the bar manager, and they're like, I'm doing fine without you. Why do I need you? No one's asking for you.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's like, oh man, like I got to get people to ask for me, or I got to come up with, or convince them that, we can replace something of theirs. Because, really most of these places are really fine without you. And that's one of the really hardest parts of the business is convincing that buyer. But, the second sell is truly the hardest. Like, how do I convince that 93% of people going into the liquor store to know who I am and to want to go and buy me? That's everything.
Right. So one of the things you touched on this a little bit earlier, but just like you guys' focus on your what you feel is morally right, and like the the transparency of how you do what you do. And like, I mean, a lot of times, especially someone like myself, I'll go tour a facility, some sort of a manufacturing facility, whether it's equipment versus food products. Because before this, I was a corporate chef with some chain restaurants, and we worked with tons of food manufacturers. And I mean, on a regular basis, I would go and I would either tour the facilities, see our product being made if it was a custom product, but no pictures, right? Or you can't talk about really the differences in the type of machinery or equipment that they were using versus some other manufacturer, right? And so I know that this is an important topic for you and all of Branch and Barrel, but maybe touch a little bit more on, that level of transparency and how that sort of separates you guys from a lot of, the other manufacturers that are out there.
Yeah, I think transparency is the most important thing in this business because there's so much smoke and mirrors out there. And I'm not going to talk bad. I'm not going to say anyone's doing it wrong or right. Right. I just think there's
Right.
many different ways to approach the industry, and consumers aren't educated enough to really know the difference of what they're drinking or where it's from or who's making it or how it was made. And, when we started this, and like the whole thought is, respect. We want to be a respectable brand. I think respect comes with truth, and truth comes with transparency. And so, someone actually wrote us a really bad Google review because they're like, I walked in and there was this corn, the buckets were open and you could just see everything that was going on. And we're like, yeah, we want you to. Like the whole point is like, come put your hand in the grains, like put it in your mouth and then put it back in. I don't care.
Right.
Like it's going to get cooked and it's going to get distilled. Like what you're doing is not going to in a bottle. But like, we want this. We want you to see this. The best part about picking this state is that where the rain falls every year, you get better growth. And so we get to pick which farmers we work with every year to try to get the best grains and work with different malters to malt it or this or that. But also, like all of our equipment is unique. This isn't like a lot of distilleries, and there's nothing wrong with this, but you open up a magazine and it's a German still or a German fermenter or whatever you want to get, it's a Vindrum, this or that, and they can just order it. And it's like, okay, well, I can see exactly what pieces of equipment they have. And you can do your own calculations, but ours is condiment vats, right? We have cola reciprocators. Like we have all this stuff that you're like, did this come from an ethanol facility? Like what the hell kind of a piece of equipment is this? Our second still, we were calling it Frankenstein for a while because it's like a vat that has 40, 50 different pieces welded or welded out or attached to it because we truly make everything unique. And it's like, oh yeah, it was distilling. Now it's called Delta. We took away the Frankenstein.
Delta. There you go.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, even if you tried to replicate what we're doing, you couldn't. And I'd be honored if you took what we're doing and tried to do it again. That'd be really cool. But I really think we do tours and we try to bring people back and like show them this is where it starts with these grains, and like it ends up in a bottle because of this process and the science, and we'll show you everything. And that's the fun spot. And, of course, it sits in a barrel for most of its life, but really how it gets there is a very cool process.
Of the products you guys are making right now, so I mean, like I have a bottle of the flagship.
Yeah, Luke, we all know you have a bottle.
I'm proud to rub this in Brian and Robert's face. Brian. But of the products you guys are, I mean, how many different products you guys making? And of that mix, like, what are your kind of top sellers and things that people are most, talking about the most?
Oh man. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the freedom to explore.
Yeah.
So if you come to the tasting room, I think we have 16 different SKUs you can try. But our distributor, I think it's 4 or 5 with a seasonal. Because there's 4 we really put our name on. And again, it's a consistency and knowing that you can go out and try it. Like it's fun to like go out and buy a bottle, like, oh man, I really wish I could have that again, and then not. So when we put things on the shelf, we try to make those a consistent annual product. But we do a lot of really one-off fun experiments that we'll have a barrel. So 240 bottles later, it's gone, and it's gone forever. But those are kind of one-offs that we do, which are really fun experiments. This is one of them. This was a cognac barrel aged bourbon, which is phenomenal. This is one of my favorite drinkers. But probably our best seller is our flagship, right? It's just a traditional bourbon, and it's really good. It's 5 years at this point. And that's one of our best sellers. We have a 3-way, which is cinnamon, vanilla, maple. These barrels we got from a broker. They look like they came from a pirate ship. Like they've had some life before them. But they were at a cinnamon whiskey. They aged cinnamon whiskey, they aged vanilla bean extract, and they aged maple syrup all at different times. There's 24 of these barrels.
Wow.
And these brokers know that we do crazy shit, and they're like, "Hey, you got to check this stuff out." We're like, "Yes, we'll take all of them." And so, we're running through those.
Yeah.
It's been several years, but I think 2 years from now they'll be gone. And that'll just be the life of those. Because all of those characteristics come from the wood.
Right. Does something like that kind of wear out? I mean, I would assume.
Yeah, it definitely wears out over time. So we try to use one at a time to just really keep going with it. But unless we can get more, which I don't think we ever will. It's really fun. Our honey's a great seller. The Cafe Miel, I love the Cafe Miel. People don't buy it. It blows my mind. You go and we'll do all these tastings and people fall in love with the Cafe Miel, but they buy the flagship. right?
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, but all of everything we put on the shelf, I think is fantastic. Our weeded, which is this guy, just won a double gold at the San Francisco International Spirits Competition, which was the first year we ever produced it.
Oh,
Awesome.
great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's our second double gold, like over the moon. It's one of like the highest accomplishments you can get from a very reputable competition. And yeah, it was the first year we released something like this, and for it to go straight to double gold was we're just really proud of our team for putting it there. But it's funny because we made this
Yeah.
4 years ago. He had no idea that it would be this good or what it would turn out to be. And yeah, first bottling wins a double gold. So that's when I come home, I'm drinking the weeded right now. But it's just fun to experiment and really see what we're doing and keep pushing the limits and keep pushing, the age statements of what we can put together. And just have fun with it. Right. This industry has gotten so serious about like, it has to be this, it has to have this many, that, and this. And it's like, do you like it? Is your cup empty? Do you want more of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all
right?
I care about. Yeah. It's just like, is there flavor?
Yeah.
You fill it off a glass.
That's how I feel about cooking. Like,
Yeah.
does it taste good? Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you do? Put it in a pan.
Would you like more?
Would you like some more?
If so, then we did good.
Yep. And I'm guessing with those, like when you do 16 different barrels and things like that, when you're experimenting, you get the 250. You just sell them at your spot,
Mostly.
like in your tasting room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to go out there and see it then.
I would love for you to.
Oh, we will.
I mean, definitely.
So speaking of that whole thing, so you guys obviously you're here in Colorado. So, I'm lucky, right, that I'm here in Colorado too. So it's easy for me to get down there. But are you able to sell outside of Colorado? Do you have, a way to do that? Or are you just in Colorado right now? Do you have plans to expand out of that? Or I don't know.
Oh, yeah. In 2018, I got my license to sell in California and Texas
Okay.
and sold like 2 cases and decided not to do it.
Okay.
I have been trying to learn from a lot of my peers what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Expanding out of your state is tough, right? Because again, you go to a liquor store in Seattle and you see Branch and Barrel on the shelf. You've never heard of it. There's no advertising dollars behind it. There's no one there telling you it's amazing, right?
Right.
You're going to go to what you're familiar with, what you've heard of, right? So for us to go to another state takes capital. It takes an advertising marketing budget and strategy, and you have to hit it hard, right? And to half-ass
Right.
trying to get into states just because you want to be in states is I see how people can fail very quickly, right? Because as I mentioned, there's 2 sales, right?
Yeah.
Get it onto a liquor store shelf is not the easiest thing, but like, okay, like, hey, I can work with you. We'll get a good deal. Okay, I'll put it up there. But if no one goes and buys it, if no one pulls it off the shelf, they're never going to buy you again. Like brands get disqualified all the time
Right, you're
because
done. Yeah.
they sit there, and that will never be my goal. We want to move. Because all of our retail partners, we call them partners, right? We show up once a week, right? We put on promotions. We send people there. Like everyone we deal with knows us because we want to be partners with them. We want to be there. We want to be present, and we want to build that reputation of like being this local brand that really cares about 1, the store facility, and 2, our customers, right? And we really want to be top to bottom
Right.
of how we can show appreciation. And right now, if we left the state, we couldn't do that. And I'm not going to harm our reputation by not being able to provide that service.
That's awesome. I mean, that's super honorable. I mean, I think like, I don't know, we should all live by standards like that. That's fantastic.
I might make more money if I did that, but this is like, I really want to.
You might.
We might, but it's a control thing, and it's like we want to own the state before we leave it.
Well, it's integrity too.
Absolutely, and we care a lot. So if you met any of my team, my sales team's phenomenal. Josh, Forrest, Riley, and Dominique, they do a remarkable job of just like of caring and showing that and being out there. They kind of rep from Foco to Pueblo, and then out to Junktown.
Okay.
And so it's just we want everyone that works with us to know how much we really care.
Well, Ryan, this has been fantastic, man. I really appreciate you taking the time with us and just hanging out and telling your story. I gotta say, I feel like I've picked up a lot more information about Branch and Barrel and how that whole manufacturing process happens and what how you guys look at the process, because I think even from an equipment manufacturing standpoint and a restaurant operation standpoint and really food service operation, like every operation is unique, right? And when we try to, I guess, pigeonhole an operation and say, all right, well, you're just like this and you need to be exactly set up this way and this is exactly the way it's going to work. I mean, that's typically when we hit stumbling grounds, right? We fumble and we don't do a great job. I think it's important that we always look at our businesses and see them as unique operations and unique opportunities really to succeed in special ways, because food, as well as distilling, as well as I would assume brewing and all these different industries, I mean, we're all on the same team, right? We all play together. We should be able to play together, but we also have to find ways to separate ourselves from each other so that we can, all play on the same team. Otherwise, we're all trying to play the same role. We step on each other's toes, right? So this has been a
Luke.
blast. Hey.
What a send-off.
I was feeling inspired.
Luke,
Wow.
you're hired. You're hired as the new marketing manager at Branch
I
and
need a
Barrel.
glass of that whiskey if I'm going to talk like that.
Hey,
Holy
maybe that's
shit.
what it was. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe I need another glass.
Yeah, Luke, you're totally right. Right, it's the individualism that makes it fun, and everyone gets to participate. Right, and if you do what you love, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Right, and if everyone else
No,
enjoys it,
Not at
like,
all.
no matter how you do it, should be great.
I may or may not have done some distilling in my life, and I learned a lot from you today.
Great. Robert's going to start his own whiskey company now.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I'm not. That's
No, I'm not.
illegal. It's
Shut up.
illegal. I don't do that.
Shut up, Brian.
If you need to borrow a water heater, I got you.
Yeah.
That was really great meeting Ryan. Awesome story. I love how they bottled their whiskey in jars and put actual wood in it to get the flavor. To
Right.
start it off with, like, brilliant idea for some reason. And then the water heater story I think is funny. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they did a small water heater and then they upgraded not to
Right.
another thing, but they upgraded to a bigger water heater.
A bigger water heater. Yes. Absolutely.
They're like, we're not going to get the distilling tanks yet. We're going to try it in another water heater first.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they're successful because, I mean, you're going from selling tea and having a tea business, and no one's ever been in distillation, brewing, any of that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, figuring it out. And, that's just a crazy, crazy story.
Crazy.
I mean, all in all, I think I feel fascinated, right? The whole process and everything. And then, being able to kind of walk around there with him in the distillery. I mean, it's not a huge place, right? But like, when he mentioned, the dog, like his dog it's there. Like, I mean, it's just a fixture of the building more or less, right? Like I walked in and I was greeted by the dog. The dog took me back into the distillery. Like when we came out to have a sample, like the dog, like Moose was there with us, right? And I love
It's your
that.
tour guide. Takes
Moose
you
was the
around.
tour guide, no doubt. But like, another thing, like he was talking about, after they graduated out of the water heater 1 and then the next level of water heater, Ryan, and then into, some actual equipment. Even that stuff was like still like modified by hand, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, they're taking things and like you said, either they cut the top off and then welded on a new top with all the pipes and all the stuff that you need to be able to do everything. But like Rosalinda, like that was there. Like, and even on the side of the big tank, it said Rosalinda. Like I saw it.
Do they still have the old Campbell one, or is that gone?
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah,
That's
it's
rad.
still there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was super cool. I definitely feel like I've got a new favorite place to visit. And I think, the next time you two are in town, we're going to take a field trip.
Let's do it.
And yes, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. No drivers that day.
Yeah, no drivers. Yeah, that's going to be a taxi, Uber, Lyft, whatever.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, take us out, buddy.
Oh, am I doing the spinny?
You have to do it.
And it's perfect timing too, because I just mopped all my floors for the event.
It's going to be super slick. It just imagine that you've got that giant like jet fuel filler shot at your mouth and it spins you around.
Look how much room I have to play in here.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Hold on.
Okay. Thanks for watching. I hope you click the subscribe button and watch again. Oh!
Oh, Don't hurt yourself.
My light fell down. It's okay.
All right. Peace. Peace out.